Jeff and I, we spent about, Claire, keep me on the clock, please.
I will, Lucy. That's my job for everyone who doesn't know, keeping Lucy on track.
Well, Clive's got worked with me before, they know. Let me talk and I talk. Anyway, coming back, so Jeff and I, we spent about a month in America meeting all sort of people, not these sort of people you think about. We met lawyers, we met VCs, we met startups, we made some business partnerships, we signed some agreements with IBM and all this stuff, but we also spent a week in South by Southwest. So for those who don't know, South by Southwest is probably one of, if not the largest conference when it comes to digital innovation disruption. So it happens every year, Austin, around March. It's actually interactive music and film all together, but it starts and ends in different days. South by Southwest is it's where some big technologies were born, like Twitter. If it wasn't for South by Southwest, very unlikely Twitter to have taken this global stage and be like mainstream. There's some other potential examples, guys. The most important thing is to understand the dynamics of South by Southwest. It's a big shift, but used to be you had conferences happening across all the city of Austin. You have conferences happening over, I don't know, maybe 10 different venues happening all at the same time, and you pick the stream, you go. It's a rush. You go from one place to another, jump in a bus, walk fast, lose weight, eat fried chicken, get drunk at night.
Put the weight back on again.
Put the weight back on again, get drunk at night, and start everything again the next day. It's also interesting to note that actually there are more business carried out of the seminars and the conference. There's a lot of network. Jeff and I went up in a dinner with one of our partners, and you make friends with people who actually can help you to see things happening beyond the South by Southwest. So one example is I became kind of, not friends, but acquaintances with the head of digital for Amazon. And this guy was just telling me all these amazing things they're doing. And if you just shut up, and that's very hard for me to shut up, but if you just shut up and listen to the guy, you get to know so much of innovation. And by the fact that you spend this 1 hour with the guy talks about all this stuff, you don't say a word, and by the end of the night, the guy turns to you and says, "Man, you're amazing, you're a great guy, you're very intelligent." Haven't said a thing. So let's jump directly here, guys. So South by Southwest this year, I felt there was a big shift from everything that was happening before to what's happening now. It was amazing. It became massive, it became mainstream. They said about 30,000, 20,000 people.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like ridiculous big. It became very big. I would like to start with this slide. This today is less about slides, more about us freestyling and talking to you guys about things. But that's interesting, the shift that we had, I heard last year to what's being talked this year. So of course, they talked about augmented reality this year, but it was very in the back room, no one really giving attention anymore. But it's interesting, even not just the topics, they don't talk anymore, like Snapchat or AI, they're not really talking this year anymore, but the evolution from the subjects, like big data, massive this year, last year. This year is not really about big data anymore. It's really about, okay, we know the possibilities. Now let's get to the action. What we do in that? Here it's all about, the possibilities, we can do this, we can do that, and actually really mixing insights with opinion. Get like, oh yeah, I can get big data and again drive a lot of stuff, but actually we drive a lot of opinion here, not really insights. And now it's really about data analysis. We can analyze this data, we can drive insights. Also, a lot, it surprised me how many geeks, like hardcore geeks. Have you heard about this company called Tableau? It's like the flavor of the month, good company, all about data visualization, all this stuff. The geekest, like the top geekest data scientist guy talking about storytelling in reporting. A surprise for me, but that's a lot of talk about there. The main point for me is, look, not all emerging technologies will become mainstream. So a good example is McDonald's with Track My Macas with augmented reality. This campaign, it's an amazing campaign. If you Google that, it's a great campaign they've done with Track My Macas. They put a lot of money on augmented reality. A lot of their budget went there. Big failure. They tried, it didn't work. It's not likely to be working anymore. Lots of brands jump directly to Snapchat. Let's do something. And then again, new technology is very sexy because they really offer a bunch of opportunities for creative execution. But it's not necessarily helps you with a business perspective. Okay? You have digital should follow three principles. Okay? I just wrote this because I really didn't want to forget that. 3 key principles to try new technology. Focus on the audience, not the device, not the technology. Think reach and scale. So technology should be able to give you reach and scale. And think about behavior you want to motivate. So Snapchat is a great example that's awesome. It's making a huge success in a personal perspective. Some brands tried to do something there, they failed. There was no really story of success there, business success there. So the summary is, although some of these topics might offer you a tactical execution, wearables is an example. That's a lot of stuff you can do with wearables. Still, the big question is, does that fit my business purpose? Does it fit my bottom line? They will cut costs, they will increase revenue, they will sell another pair of shoes, they will do anything for me. That's how it should be managed there. Jeff?
I wanted to summarise all of this in my words by saying today we're trying to encapsulate 3 weeks into 1 hour. What Lucio's just taken you through are the highlights, and what we anticipate is that there'll be more questions than answers in many degrees, but hopefully what we'll do is help you recognise the areas that you're most interested in. So it is 3 weeks into 1 hour. Make some notes, let us know if you'd like more information in any area.
Well, and talking about facts as a Snapchat, this year was nothing like major on South by Southwest, like a new website, a new social networking, or new massive software that would say, wow, this is going to be massive. But that definitely was a year of gadgets. That definitely about all gadgets. It's what's amazing amount of gadgets you could see there. It's almost felt you were at the consumer conference in Las Vegas, which is all about gadgets and about new little things. This year around wearables and around drones all over the place. They have a news for drones for all kind of stuff. That's amazing. So let's talk about wearables for a little bit. So I've watched a bunch of presentations about regarding wearables. I watched Visa talk about wearables, I watched Nike talk about wearables, IBM talk about wearables, big brands talk about wearables. But the fact is there's nothing really major in a commercial perspective with wearables, except by Nike, which has wearables and Internet of Things on the DNA. They are wearables, they are Internet of Things by nature, by design. They have that. The concern from these guys is all about privacy, which was a massive topic, and we're gonna talk about that later. But these guys here, they have a massive, great projects happening, but most of the brands, they have nothing solid. They're doing experiments, they're doing different things. Trust me, every single presentation I watched about wearables with big brands was actually sending someone for a fashion show, or sending someone to a sports event, sending someone to visit the plant where they manufacture the goods wearing a Google Glass. Which is, by the way, it's a defect technology. Many specialists there, digital, massive people are saying, look, Google Glass is at least 2 to 3 years to become mainstream and commercially viable. Okay, just now they're extending to sell Google Glass. They start selling about, it dropped from $3,000 to about $1,600 Google Glass. But coming back to this topic here, there wasn't no really good example. I guess that fits, wearable fits a little bit of the Coca-Cola scheme of marketing, about 70, 20, 10%. This goes really on the 10%. That's really disruptive innovation that you don't know if it's gonna work or not, and you don't care, you just try. If it works, becomes the 20% of your budget, and one day this 20% will become the 70. That's the mainstream, your TV, your now display ads, your Google AdWords, or your radio and newspaper. So wearable there's no really too much to talk about it, except by the fact that wearables are not just Google Glass, okay? There are some examples. Jeff, the ring thing?
There's a ring. My main point about wearables is that it's becoming, it's going to be big, we think, but it's going to be in many different shapes and sizes. So there was a ring, and you can put this ring on and you start to point and control things, most notably computers. So it's much broader than Google Glass, and it's much broader than the clothing. One Google Glass that I saw, it's finding its way into surgery so doctors can get information while they're operating. So there are going to be many applications. The question is, are we there yet? And I would say our recommendation for this audience when it comes to recommendations is watch this space but don't move yet. That would be our bottom line.
There was this t-shirt, because everyone was bragging about this t-shirt. Basically, the t-shirt has some LEDs, some lights in the t-shirt, and you can get it.
We have a friend.
You can do anything you want with t-shirt. You can wash the t-shirt, and still the LEDs are over there. It's $40,000 a pop. $40,000. That's the most expensive t-shirt ever. Anyway, I much prefer having like some Christmas lights on me for $40,000. All kind of stuff, guys. Wearables, watch, they're connected to things. One thing, so before I show a video to you guys, this was the biggest winner this year when it comes to wearable. These guys here called Scully, they were the biggest thing this year. Privacy came every single topic they were talking about. They talk about privacy. I'll give you one example about what I talk about privacy. These whole things, these watches recording your live and the Internet of Things connection and sending a message. One of the guys used this example. He said, look, I don't smoke, but let's say I go out, I have some drinks, and I just decide to have one cigarette. This register the fact that I had a cigarette, sends the information to some hub, which is collected by my insurance company, and God forbids I have a disease in the future, I pass away, they will use that information to say, hey, look, he smoked. It's extreme, but still, it tells a story about the privacy issues they're really concerned about. And I'm not sure how many of you guys know about the whole Target issue they had a few months ago with the data breach. They had credit cards, all this kind of stuff. This is a mainstream stage. So every project you do, whether it's a small project in digital or big project in digital, privacy is a high topic right now. So let me show these guys. It's Scully.
Scully.
Hello. It's 72 and sunny. No rain in the forecast.
Play music.
All systems go straight from inside.
Light traffic ahead. Turn left here. Call from Sarah. Continue straight on Market. Turn right.
So you got the gist of what it is. This is actually being beta tested by about 1,000 users in America, and they believe in another 2 years will be mainstream. It might be 1 year, it depends on Facebook buying something else for another $1 billion. Actually, by the way, Oculus was there. They made a demonstration with Game of Thrones, massive, and then Facebook came and bought them for God knows how many billions. Okay, that's wearables. So move on to QA and UX. QA and UX was, again, all these things were big there. I was surprised that UX and QA, mainly QA, took a main stage. So just to make sure we're all talking the same language, because there's a lot of mixed in digital. QA, quality assurance. UX, user experience. To not be confused with UI, which is user interface. So moving, using interface UX, you call quality assurance. UI, it's what you see. It's the beautiful design, the green, the black, the red, the logo, and all this stuff. User experience is actually experience from your consumers or your digital users from the beginning to the end. From the time it touches, the consumer touches a Google ad or a Facebook ad to the time it lands to a web page, goes to website, go to web page, receives an email confirmation from the order. This is the user experience, how the users travel across your digital properties. QA is the process governance that gets around these elements. If you have a good quality assurance, you can cut your digital project's budget, or you can actually be very efficient and you can bring efficacy to your budget and time. So this is a discipline. These are actionable actions, of course, actionable actions. Anyway, let me talk about quality assurance, because quality assurance is a discipline more than user experience. Quality assurance was a major conversation around there. It was really interesting to see the quality assurance conversation between agencies, brands, specialists. There was this mix of different perspectives of the world. They all coming together and talking about quality assurance. And one of the mentalities we've been using here in the office, but actually we want to reinforce and want it to be a massive advocate in Australia, is a theory called shift left. So let me just get this, you can understand what shift left means. I get a problem with this mouse. Okay, let's just understand shift left. It's quite easy to understand. So this is a normal journey of a digital project. You get job opens, you get requirements, design, development, test, and release. Historically, 95% of the digital projects, you have the test phase, which comes around development and between, after development, before release. That's where you have the test. You're gonna test for the code and all this stuff. Historically, quality assurance has been an IT development responsibility, and that shouldn't be. The think left discipline says, you know what? Quality assurance starts from the beginning. There's a bunch of procedures you can bring to the requirement phase and to the design phase that actually can cut your time and budget up to 10 times, or actually not cut back, sorry, it can save you, can avoid you spend this extra time or extra money, not even to talk about the issues you might have with your consumers. So basically, as a philosophy, what you do is, rather than having the testing, the QA happening 1 week before you launch the 6 months project you're doing, you bring a lot of stuff here. QA and shift left is such a big topic that we decide internally we need to have a special training about that. Then we're going to be presenting questionnaires, we'll be bringing what to do, like practical advice on how to make this happen, because it's such a big topic. Today I just wanted you to start thinking about. Let me just go through a little bit more about quality assurance. This here is a study from the Digital Engineers Association of America with about 6,000 marketers, digital professionals, about how much costs. This is the time they detect an issue in a digital project, and this how many times, and of course this is kind of average, how much more can it cost them in time, in budget, and they're really getting a lot of people pissed off, your CMO, CEO. Imagine when you get, it's not surprising you get a project to test this, and then you have your CMO or CEO saying, hey, I'm trying to check this Facebook app or this website on my laptop. Why this is not really working here on my BlackBerry? What's not really working? And then you get the agency saying, what is not working there? We gotta redo that. Oh, but this wasn't a requirement. Oh, but I don't care, I need to make that work. And then extra budget and extra time and all this stuff. So this is a table about how much more can cost in time and budget. Interesting enough, there's another graph I want to show you guys. Is they actually did a further investigation about where the problems in digital projects happen. We tend to believe most of the problem happens on the coding phase, on the IT development, but in fact it's on the requirement phase. It's about 56% of the digital extra spend or extra time or headaches happens on the requirements. And shift left philosophy is all about that. It's about concentrating here to avoid rolling out any issues you might have. So look, clear by the end we communicate, but we're going to have a training specifically about that with the details about this philosophy. Yep.
I just wanted to say when I first was exposed to shift left, I thought, yeah, that's logical. This isn't rocket science. And my main thought and my main message to all of you is that probably not too many of you would be surprised by this in theory. It really comes to discipline. It really means on the client side and the agency side, we have to buy into this concept of shifting left. We have to buy into getting the requirements right. As Lucio said, we buy into it here. It is an evolution for us, but certainly there's going to be training and stuff. And what I would say to all of you is, of course, you sort of know this logically. Now it's time to act. And we do want to try to finish each of these sections with a recommendation. Recommendation for wearables, as we said, no action right now. Our recommendation for this is start making the shift. There's no good reason not to. It just comes to discipline.
And we're going to help you guys. I mean, I'm going to send, there's a white paper. It's not really a white paper. It's more like a half dozen pages with some very easy actionable insights. And there's one A4 with item by item. I'll share this information with you guys and you digest and use this as you see fit. All right? So, let me just talk very quickly about UX. It's a lot of stuff about UX. You go on Google, you can Google that, UX, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. The most important thing is about the philosophy. That's in South by Southwest this year, they went beyond talking about, oh, if you want UX, you need to put faces of babies and kids on your website. They're beyond that. The whole thing is about philosophy, okay? It's about your approach to UX, your approach to your digital work. It's about mental mode about your consumer. So there is an acronym they're using, that PHE model. So if you want to write this, it's very interesting. They said, look, the perspective when you start a digital project, if you want to be successful in user experience, you need to make sure you have your digital project has personality. Don't create false expectation, and is honest. So from this kind of stuff you can understand how you're going to be working through your digital process. In terms of UX, I found fascinating one of the seminars I watched from the key UX guy from Tumblr. And they have one rule at Tumblr, very simple, very straightforward. Every time they have account managers or product developers coming asking for one extra feature, they ask what goes out. So if one feature needs to be added to the project, digital project, whatever it is, one feature needs to get deleted. You name it. Of course, this is like a philosophy. There's a bunch of data around that to support with. So they basically what they work is they have a hierarchy of features, being this is the number one feature more used by users, and this is the number one feature we want as a business to be there, and this is the last, on the scale, that's the last feature. So if you want a feature to be in the middle here, very likely these two here are going to die. But there is no one feature covering another one. That's pretty straightforward. That's how they work in simplicity. Another perspective of UX is inverted. It's mobile first. That's no discussion, guys. It's a mindset again. You start with mobile, then you roll to desktop. It's inverted from the last 10 years we're doing digital projects. When you start with desktop first, web first, and then by the way, let's adapt to tablet, let's adapt to mobile. So you do mobile first mindset, you roll out everything to desktop. That actually allows for two things. The whole usability, the whole UI, it's easy to understand what it is, but in terms of mission for a digital project, it's actually quite easy because it makes you focus on the big message you want to put there. What is the number one and how we build ripple effect, ripple importance around there. And again, another little phrase from the guy from Tumblr, he was a very funny guy. He said, look, my account managers at Tumblr, they see a blank space, they want to fit something there. It's hard to understand this shit. Blank space should be a blank space. It's not a space for put something there. So that's a kind of the mentality that comes around UX. Okay? So the summary of this is QA, shift to left. Think about quality assurance to begin the process. That allows you to be agile. That allows you to get your time and to get a budget. UX, think about, one more thing about UX. Sorry guys, that's the coffee kicking out. I'm feeling like Superman. Prototype. It's the end of flat design. Flat approval is the end. Many digital people in America, the way they approach in prototype is they bring in designers. Designers are learning to code, basic code. Coders are learning to design, basic principles of design. They are meeting halfway. So it's the end of flat design when you're building a great project in digital and you send approval in a PDF or send a file flat, one dimension. It's gone. You actually need to bring UX to the beginning of the process. How my user is going to be seeing the drop down. There's a shadow behind here. How is the loading from one page to another? It's really about trying to understand the experience from the beginning. That's a bunch of new wave of softwares. I would call this prototype 2.0. That's a bunch of softwares coming along now that allows you for mockups and allow you for wireframes to be reactive to the user experience. This is big and this is happening right now. This is something you guys can start to execute right now. And of course, it might seem at the first there are going to be agencies will charge a little bit more here, a little bit more there, but by the end of the day, they need to do this prototype. It's just right now it's happening to the end of the process. You just bring to the beginning of the process.
If I can add a little bit to that, imagine you're buying a house. So this is an analogy. Imagine you're buying a house. It's a new house and you have two choices. You can look at the house on a PDF, a piece of paper, or you can actually go into the house as it's being built and try opening the door this way or that. Oh, I thought it opened that way. So it's sort of like walking through the house, testing how the windows are going, testing the taps, and making the changes while it's being built out, as opposed to looking at it, as Lucio says, on a flat design. So that's an analogy that can help you understand how this concept works in terms of the website. You're working with the builders as they go to make the refinements on the spot. And that's why it's a part of this, because it fits in as a subset of the QA and bringing as much left as you can, rather than getting to the end and saying, no, I don't want the window opening that way. I don't want the drop down now that I've seen it.
Yeah. All right, so this is enough about QA and UX. Let's move to the next topic, which was, again, a massive. So as I said, this year was the year of gadgets, okay? Beacons and iBeacons. These, again, that was major over there. So for those who don't know, beacons and iBeacons is basically the same thing. So iBeacons is Apple technology, and beacons became the category. So now people are, if you go on Google or if you go online and search for things, you might find videos where people talk about beacons or iBeacons, but they're actually trying to talk about the category. So beacons are, it's a little piece of hardware. I actually bought some, and I don't have here, but it's a little piece of hardware, not bigger than this thing here. You put it on your ceiling or a table, and that sends message to your mobile in a Bluetooth technology, okay? And that works with proximity. So basically you have a table selling jeans. You walk in your mobile in a native app for David Jones. You walk in there, you have a native app from David Jones. These jeans are in promotion. As you walk by, that pops up and say, hey, these jeans here are in promotion. That's the simplest way to explain that thing. But there are many more users than that, actually. There are many more users than that. The difference between, one of the reasons Beacon was kind of mainstream this year in South by Southwest is because it's different in augmented reality. Augmented reality, last year, there was a lot of people still trying to build some experiments with that. This is a reality. These are commercial uses right now about that. I'll give one example. What's it called? The Baseball Association of America? I don't know. The Baseball Association of America. These guys, they're using that in the stadiums in America. What they're doing is, They have about 60 or 80 little beacons. Another thing is very cheap technology. Very cheap. It's a little bit expensive development, but the technology, you buy 3 beacons for $150. It's very affordable. That's probably what I bought. So you have the beacons installed across stadiums in America, about 60 or 80 little beacons. And what happened is, you have the native app on your mobile from the baseball association, whatever it is. As you walk past the door number 32, that sends a message and say, hey, your ticket is AB, whatever, you should go on the door 15, take the first left. So it's embedded as a service. That's one example. They gave more than that, but you got the gist. As you are in the stadium, depending on who is winning the game, they start merchandise campaign for the winning team. Hey, Melbourne is winning, 30% off on the jerseys and this kind of stuff in the middle of the game. So you drive traffic to the merchandise stand and start selling. That's a reality there. Another great example, I love it, they're museums. So every single piece of art, or at least the main piece of art, as you walk past the piece of art, there's a little beacon under the frame or whatever it is, and that pops up and tells you the story of there. You learn on that thing. As you walk out from there, walk to another one, that pops up to you. So these are some of the uses of beacons. This is a short video about some of the possibilities, so you can start to visualize them.
The phones we carry around are pretty smart, but they could be a lot smarter. For example, they can connect to a server in another part of the world, but they have no idea that you're in a kitchen, in a conference room, or shopping at your favorite retail store. They lack micro-location context, but now that's changed with SxSW beacons. They use new Bluetooth smart technology, supported by all major mobile platforms, including the recently announced iOS 7 with iBeacons. Put anywhere in the physical world, they broadcast context and location to all compatible phones and smart devices in range. Phones can now automatically pick up the signal and trigger contextual actions designed by business owners. Customers can enjoy a seamless experience with more information about the products that interest them. Photos, videos, reviews, personalized pricing, and even social updates. As they browse through the store, their phones will transition from one item to the next, based on their proximity to the displays, enhancing the shopping experience every step of the way. Also, business owners can now benefit from quantitative location data on visits and customer feedback. Better for business and a better experience for shoppers. Smart Retail Solutions by SxSW.
Anyway, this is experience, doing some experience. Actually, Coca-Cola just announced they're going to be doing a massive beacon campaign involving vending machine across the World Cup. So Coca-Cola is actually taking to the in the FMCG industry, taking the leadership on that.
So in terms of a recommendation for this one, we do think that this is moving and it's moving pretty quickly. We certainly wouldn't be encouraging anybody to panic or start, jumping into it in a hurry, but we would certainly encourage you to be very aware of this opportunity and start thinking about how it can fit into your strategy. In our view, this is something that's going to become very relevant in the next 6 to 18 months, and clearly leaders in the industry are going to get some benefit.
We bought some of these beacons, and actually the guys from our development team, on the downtime for them, they're going to be trying things.
So next time you come, you might get all sorts of messages and speak.
Hello, thanks for coming to Land Circle. Avoid Lucia.
Or at least don't give him coffee.
I come with not that bad. All right, so moving on, if I can.
If you haven't picked up on it yet while Lucio's doing this, he sent me to all of the dry sessions about speaking to lawyers or listening about how to raise funds, while he had all the fun with iBeacons and wearables and all that sort of stuff. So he had a whole lot more fun at South by than I did, but still the nights were good.
That's called strategist. CEO. Anyway, okay, let's get to the, we probably have another 15 minutes, and most of this attention, this was all great, but this is actually the core. If everything we spoke before was about 30% of the conversations that happened this year, 40% of this conversation happened this year in South by Southwest, and they're gonna set the future. this data analysis, content, and some other elements I'll bring in. There's one more slide after that. That was the bulk of everything they're going to be set in the future. So the first thing is talk about data analysis and reporting. There was a lot of talk about how report. One of the things they believe if that doesn't get fixed right now, this whole big data and analysis, if it doesn't get fixed now, we'll die, is the inability for us to report that information into the board and C-level. Inability to get a bunch of data, drop in a paper with a lot of numbers, and even if we believe we have a couple of phrases that explain the insights from there, they still will kill. So I wouldn't be asking anyone to put their hands up, but I believe none of us need another report, none of us need more data, none of us need even more information to go through. What we need is actionable insights. It's actually things that say, look, we analyze these things here, and what to do next is A, B, and C. Because of this. That's how KPIs is what we're going to be achieving from there. Storytelling was major this year. From the geek guys, from the social media guys, from the digital creative guys, everyone was talking about storytelling. But just talk about storytelling is not really too much. I can come to you and say, hey, you need to build storytelling on your campaign. You need to build storytelling on that. The guys from Tableau, they actually presented a video that for me encapsulates and really summarizes what is storytelling with data. You know, I'd like to show you this. We don't need to see the whole video, but it's
The world my father told me about 50 years ago was a divided world. It looked like this. Each bubble is a country. Size is population. Blue, Africa. Red, Asia. Yellow, Europe. And green, the Americas. Vertical is child mortality. From 30% of children dying before the age of 5 down to almost 0 child death. Horizontal, number of babies born per woman. From 8 to less than 2. But most countries were up here. Women had 6 to 7 children. Child deaths were frequent. Almost every family lost 1 or more children. In many people's mind, the world still looks like this, developing and developed. But it's a myth, because the world has improved immensely in the last 50 years. Here we go. Year by year, child mortality fell in almost all countries, and as child mortality fell, women chose to have fewer and fewer babies, and that enabled them to invest more time and resources in each child. By 1990, some of the so-called developing countries had already made it down here. Some were in between, and a few remained up here with very high child mortality. Ethiopia had hardly moved at all. It had passed through decades of famines and political turmoil.
And if this guy can do, although it's a serious talk, but it's a pretty boring talk for us, it's a very serious, but it's still not really sexy talk. Imagine what we can do with cars, chocolates, or whatever we want to do. Okay, we can do the amazing things. Of course, it takes money, it takes talent, but this is happening. Companies in America, they're using more and more this way to narrate stories and narrate results and data than actually just flat Excel little reports.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that was particularly interesting for me, for those of you that we've talked with around monitoring and analysis over the years, you'll know that we've never really brought into computers being able to analyse sentiment because of vernacular, sarcasm and all that sort of stuff. We still believe that there is an important role for both automation and manual to play, but automation is starting to bring some real benefits. There's a company that we already work with very closely, and their development in this space is really interesting. They're starting, when I say starting, they're in beta at the moment. They believe they're a month or two away from being able to present automated analysis around intent. Intent to buy. Intent to switch if you're regarding telcos, electricity, etc. Intent to watch regarding entertainment, movies, etc. So there starts to become a much more commercial reality around that. More than that, they're starting to read large streams of data and be able to sense the person's mood. So they're able to read a series of tweets and determine whether the person that's writing them is happy or sad, excited, etc. And in fact, Lucio mentioned IBM a couple of times. We sat in a couple of sessions with IBM in very small group stuff that we're invited to. They have a product that if you give them 200 tweets, they'll be able to identify 52 personality traits about that author, which makes it much, much more tangible to be able to get the right message to them than simply the information they've given us through their profile description. And in fact, IBM tells us that conversion to specific offers out of this process is 45%. In the end, whether it's 45, a bit more, a bit less, clearly it's an interesting point. But take that one step further. Lucio mentioned one of the dinners that we went to. While he was talking to the Amazon guy, I was talking to this guy from a company called Meta that I'd never heard of before, but they're sizable in America. And they're doing the same sort of thing as IBM, but they're mapping it against Myers-Briggs profiles. So the point is, we're going to be able to start to take what we're finding online and do much more with it and communicate with people in a much more meaningful way.
What we have there, sorry Jeff, Nimble and IBM, that's a great example. It's another thing that's actually not the bullet point here, but it's again, one of the things that was very clear for me is the end of verticals, is the beginning of horizontals. And for that I mean, everything that happens on Facebook, it's very Facebook, the data, the content you generate, everything is there. Everything you do for a SEO and it keeps coming down. Everything you do for SEO, for SEM or PPC here, it's here. Twitter, your customer service, there is no real integration across horizontal. It's finished. It's actually one of the guys we met in America, an amazing guy. He was the father of CRM. What's his name again? Father of CRM. That's his name. I can't remember his name. But he is big kind of back in the time when it's direct marketing, CRM.
He started Goldmine, for those of us that are old enough to know of Goldmine.
I know Goldmine, but I'm not old. But this guy started a new company called Nimble. Okay? He's Mark Cuban, Google, there's all these kind of high-level people behind that. What this company does is amazing. It's amazing. It's a personal CRM, and they're going to be expanding enterprise. But what it does is, it gets Jeff on my contact. So I create an account on this Nimble, okay? And then I insert Jeff as a contact for me. What this tool does is it scans the whole social media landscape and brings together and starts to aggregate this information and takes from the principle that every time I talk to Jeff, when I'm talking Twitter, or I'm talking Facebook, on LinkedIn or any other place, it's a touch point, okay? And it reads that touch point in a CRM perspective. What these guys done, along with IBM, is they brought this to the sales team. They embed these in the sales capacity. They brought these into marketing insights for the sales team. And the last number I had is, it's something on the 30 to 40%. They did a test in IBM. The sales guys with these social profiles, the sales guys without the sales profile as a controller. I don't know too much details about that. But the fact is, the team with a social profile, they sold about 40%, 36% more in a period of time than the other guys. When you talk IBM size, you know what 36% is big impact. So bringing this together, the interesting is, the first question he asked Jeff was...
I'm giving a sign.
Oh, sorry. Just to finish this story then. Jeff, the first thing he asked Jeff is, when we walked to his office, he said, "Did you guys research me?" And I said, "Yeah, we did. We looked at your LinkedIn, all this stuff." And he said, "Did you look my Instagram?" And I said, "No, we don't, and we didn't." And he said, "Look, if you really want to understand who I am, you would know now by my Instagram that I have 2 girls, two kids, 2 daughters, and I got to do this, I do that. You would know a lot about me."
As well as the presentations, of course, these conferences have the exhibitions, and we were walking through those. And there was one there that I wanted to share with you very quickly. There's a process where, when you're building a mobile phone app, you can attach a piece of code, and it does 2 really interesting things with regard to data. First of all, if I downloaded this app onto my phone, it interrogates my phone. And so it immediately tells the people that built the app that I'm interested in golf, I'm interested in traffic in Melbourne, whatever else is on my phone. So you can start to get an idea of what other apps are on the phone and build out a personality from that. It also tells you where that phone's been. So if, for example, you have a range of shopping centres and you want to know how long they spend in your shopping centre or somebody else's shopping centre, you can do that. We have some people here with that, but that's an example. So there are continuing to be more ways to do data. I'm going to jump to weather triggers because for me that's the most interesting one while we're sitting here. Before we got on the plane, we were already here in this business, already starting to build out event triggers. It's something that we think are going to be huge, if this, then that. And we were really excited to see a guy from the Weather Channel presenting at the conference, and they were presenting on this exact topic. And the idea is, if it gets to 35 degrees, then straight away, the process, in our case it'll be our Social Pulse platform, will start pushing out ads for 7-Eleven for Slurpees, for McDonald's for their ice creams, etc. This guy gave some, we already had this idea and we were starting to build it out. He blew my mind in the sorts of things that they were already doing. Apparently there is a dew point that you can, and so you tap into the API of the Weather Channel or the Bureau of Meteorology or both. Apparently there is a dew point at which insect larvae start to open up. And insect spray companies in America are now starting to advertise when the Weather Channel API tells them that that's the dew point in this city, they'll start promoting their product. They did this campaign with Procter & Gamble that was looking at humidity, dew point and temperature to determine how frizzy a woman's hair would get, and would present different ads for different shampoos in different locations. So for us that was really, because we already had the concept of temperature, but you can take it so much further. Lucio was a little bit cruel when he talked about Melbourne winning. There's one person at least in the room that likes the idea of that. But imagine that Melbourne, who are they playing this weekend, Steve? Doesn't matter. It's not that interesting right now. Imagine Melbourne beats GWS. Your events trigger can start advertising Melbourne scarves and beanies if you're in that sort of business. So the whole concept of using data from a third party to take an action, an automated action that you set up in advance, is really exciting for us. And the Weather Channel guy, where they're already taking it overseas was really exciting.
Sorry, in terms of web, it's actually a very easy blueprint of make this happen. Very easy. What you need to do is, you don't need to do anything, you do it if you want. What you can do is get historical data from the weather and the variations and overlay these across whatever the variable you want. It's a foot traffic to your store or sales or whatever you want. And start to try to find correlations, not causations, just correlations, patterns. And then you can start a small little test in a city. That's what P&G is doing, that's what Unilever is doing, that's what a beer company, alcohol companies are doing. Last week we were in Sydney in the Global Marketer Conference, and I was talking to the guys from one big beverage company, and they were saying to me that actually there are two things, not different than FMCG, there are two things that drive sales up and down: occasions and weather. In their case, occasions and weather. And in their case also increasing penetration purchase from females. But these are the two things. If they can nail this weather thing, if they can use this smart, they have a massive gain on that. So weather is a big thing. We're playing now. We don't know exactly what we can do with this, but it's a big part of the future. More and more markets are going to do that.
There's one more example I wanted to give you. We talked 5 minutes ago about the idea of analysing emotion. One of the things that the Weather Channel guy talked about, he didn't actually link it to this emotion thing, but I imagine that it works something like this, whether it did for him or not, it can for us in the future. They've identified that they were looking at emotions based on weather. And if it's been snowing for 10 weeks in New York, and then you get 4 hours of sunshine, suddenly people are happier. So the idea of being able to analyse how people are responding in different environments through their tweets, understanding, this characteristic of happiness is coming through, then next time that weather situation or scenario happens, you're already there with your triggers set up to take advantage of it. So there are these mixes of data that are going to be able to bring more opportunity.
So, guys, we put these under content because although it's paid organic kind of content, it fits, it's a trick, it fits under content. We have another 2 or 3 minutes before Jeff and I finish. I would not try to rush across the other items, but I'll give one example of each one of these topics around content, okay? These are the 5 things that came along content in South by Southwest. Hyperlocal. It's really getting your big mission of your big mission statement on a global level and understand the global rollout tactical execution. Great example, Uber, the car short ride. They do just one city in America where they target Foursquare in New York. So you check in the airport in New York, you pop up an offer for $10 off. That's hyperlocal. Whole Foods, another example where the local manager managed the social content for them. And of course, there's a lot of infrastructure. It's not easy. We decide now, okay, my local manager will do that. There's a lot of structure behind that, training, software, all this stuff. Workforce involvement, big. Visa, MasterCard, Nike maybe, IBM, all these, and I can name another 10 brands. They are involving more and more the workforce. IBM is probably one leading in terms of pushing that, but the reality is brands business are finding a way. Get involved. What is a workforce involvement? Is internal content or external content. Great example. IBM, they have a Bluetooth, which is an internal YouTube, which is get more experienced internal staff to record videos of tips on how to do things for new upcoming staff. And they have this internal network. So it's big and it's just going to get more. Consumers involvement, that's a great story. I watched a presentation with WWE, the Western, I didn't know it was that massive in America. These guys are rock stars. The guy who gave a presentation, I can't remember his name, he's the biggest star on social media in sports, bigger than anyone else. He has the most followers on Facebook, Twitter, all this kind of stuff. I can't remember his name. But he told a great story about content generation. They were monitoring online about conversation about their TV show. They found there were a group of people on Reddit.com talking about hijacking WWE. Hijack RAW, the wrestling TV show. They noticed that what they've done is they got that content, they developed a content strategy, they were about to launch the big app they had. So they rolled out this content along few shows, pre-launch the app. And what they've done is they get a good guy from the wrestlers to one day invade the stage and get the microphone and say, hey guys, we gotta hijack this, you own the show, not these guys. So they turn a negative into a positive and they roll this in many episodes to the point that they built a lot of hype, they launched the app and they had about, I can't remember the name, but it was like 10 million downloads just building up that thing. That's what they call consumer involvement. And the last thing before we wrap up is real time. It's really the time now, whether it's internal competence or your agency or whatever, you gotta be prepared for that. You gotta be prepared to respond quickly, to react to quickly, to be quick in getting the hot trends, the things that are happening offline, to embed it online. Where's Matt? Matt, sorry to put on the stage. We have one example here that I wanted to give over this weekend. You want to talk very quickly about Boost Bar?
Yeah, well, got a couple of good representatives here too, I'm sure that's
sorry, mate.
So everyone's heard about the Snickers ad that came out, which is, some people deem is very sexist. Boost Nuts as a challenger brand wanted to change that, I guess leverage that somewhat, and we basically put out a post within not a lot of time of the Snickers ad, gave it a bit of Facebook sponsorship just to basically position the Cadbury Boost brand as a brand that doesn't, I guess, is for being all for gender equality as opposed to these perceptions that Snickers is sexist. And it went nuts, so it was a good result.
And this all
You've
happened
got to be on
in,
your toes.
this all happened between you and, I don't know, it was Mario, but it happened in a few hours, or maybe.
First round.
So that's the whole deal, guys. It's about reactive and being quick, identify something, bring back, doing, happening. And in hours you had creative content. There's a lot of great agencies and internal capacity doing these things. Oreo is probably the biggest example of being reactive and doing a lot of things happening. But this is a reality, this is happening, and they have softwares, they have developments around that. It's a mindset.
So if I can finish with a recommendation around data, if we try to project it, around content, if we try to project ourselves forward 3 and 4 years, we then realise that it's not a question of if, but how we as individuals and collectively, we start to change the way we see content and how we manage it. So our recommendation to you is to start to make that change now. There'll be a whole lot of individuals and a whole lot of companies that will be slow in the take-up, but we're excited. Hopefully you're taking something out of this message. If you project 3 years forward, you'll see that it has to be different. So now's the time to start changing.
There's actually, in America, they're pushing so strong this whole content. There are some companies waiting to South by Southwest to announce CCM, the Chief Content Marketer. The companies are really taking the Chief Content Marketer. That's the kind of how serious became content for them. So guys, we try to cover 3 weeks and 1 week of full-on information we had. That's the kind of the big view of what's coming next. We're going to have a few vertical sessions, and I'll hand over to Claire. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie. I think we did very well.